Hello, YouTubers, friends, compatriots. Bootlicker, shills, desolate, sorry, sets, peasants, vassals. I am a useful idiot, and today I would like to talk about disinformation. This is a tactic used by mainstream media, and actually alternative media to a certain extent as well, to create a great deal of cognitive dissonance and to help guide issues, because this is the tactic that one has to use in an age of information. Since a lot of material is out in the open, sometimes now they can have secrets that are out in the open just by using disinformation to make it harder to know what to think. And of course, this is historically a recent development, because in the old days, of course, you could just control the debate by the sword. And through the old aristocracies and monarchies and tyrants, all information could be controlled. And certainly the methods of distributing information were more primitive and were easier to control. But we live in an age of information and technology, and disinformation is a very important tactic. And one could argue that the move to republics, as in the American Revolution, and the creation of a people's government has created an environment where there's a lot of information, and therefore disinformation was a natural development and evolution, a counter move to information being freely available to the populace. So anyway, let's get down to some main methods that are used in disinformation in mainstream media. This includes magazines, newspapers, cable television, major commercial networks, and the like. And more or less boils down to 7 different ways that disinformation is used. So let's go through these. So number 1 is the big lie, and then the quiet retraction. And that's where the big lie is sold, and then the information is created, and the story is sold, and then the retraction, when the truth comes out, is hidden away. And we've seen that before. For example, most Americans still think that Saddam Hussein had something to do with 9/11, that Iraq had weapons of mass destruction, and that we found them. And of course, those are all incorrect, but that was the big lie, and then the quiet retraction. And we see this over and over and over. So number 2 is the unconfirmed or uncontrolled source as fact. And news sources are constantly referring to these nebulous so-called experts, these nebulous so-called unnamed sources, and whatever information is provided by these nebulous sources is somehow considered fact when it's spewed forth by news pundits. So that's another thing to look for, is these unspecified sources that become fact. Number 3 is calculated omission, or to put it in layman's terms, cherry picking. And we've seen that over and over, and that's fairly easy to spot, where you just pick and choose which information they want to present, which information they don't. And they can also guide debates and discussions on issues by using calculated omission and cherry picking as well. Number 4 is distraction and the manufacture of relevance. And we see that constantly. Most people are aware of this method of disinformation, of just over-reporting. And so they create this distraction through over-reporting, and it keeps people's minds off of some other issues that probably are important. And these outlets can also manufacture relevance. So a story that would not be a story can easily be turned into a story by using the right music and the right dramatic rhetoric and usual mainstream news mantras. So another thing to watch for. Number 5, dishonest debate tactics. And in order to maintain credibility, mainstream media has to occasionally have guests that have different views. So they have them on, but they create a very restrictive environment, and the truth ends up having to fight through a wall of crafted deceit and propaganda. And they have a whole bag of techniques in order to malign, humiliate, and or discredit whatever guests they may have on these mainstream news outlets. Then number 6 is the fact that you can use film, and it has an instant impact. But the fact is, you can't trust anything you see on film anymore in this age of data manipulation and computer-generated images. But more importantly, you see mainstream news outlets showing crowd scenes from different events in order to propagate some sort of political agenda. Fox News being notable for showing different crowd scenes that were obviously from a different place and time. And then number 7 is the idea of taking things out of context. They can even edit film in order to continue this illusion of what was said. A good example of that is, of course, the infamous Obama statement about who built what. And it was very embarrassing to see the GOP take this out of context and blow it into a mantra to appeal to the base, because in reality, the context in which the statement was used was considerably legitimate. And, so anyway, just a good example of how things can be used in news and mainstream media as disinformation to pull something out of context. So there's kind of a nutshell lineup of basic disinformation techniques. I'm sure there's more we could cover, but those are the stalwarts, the workhorses, and everyone should be familiar with those. And if you're not, you should familiarize yourself with them, because I assure you that keep these in mind when you watch any kind of mainstream news or read any kind of mainstream news, and you will see these mechanisms at work. And hopefully you will learn to see through the facade and the smoke and mirrors created by media in America and the globe today. I'm a useful idiot. Don't you be one too.